Hey, crypto family. Hope y'all been doing good. So, unfortunately, today Bitcoin's down over 2% to $7,840, with most of the altcoins being down the same amount. Now, if we look at Bitcoin analysis here, we can see that Bitcoin has still failed to break above that 8,400 resistance. Again, it broke down around this 8,200 level and has failed to regain those levels. Luckily, it's still staying above this 50-day moving average. This is on the 4-hour chart. If we look at the daily chart, it looks pretty similar. We can see here that, again, Bitcoin has had that rise, and then it fell down to this 7,300 support, and then continued to rise, and now it's hovering around 7,800. So the main thing we're going to look for here is holding this $7,300 support. Now, if you look at the RSI is still a little overbought at 65, but again, that is a ways away from where it was at 86. So it's good we have at least reset the RSI a little bit. Now, looking at these longs and shorts, longs tend to remain stable right now, whereas shorts are on the rise again. Now, I mentioned last time that when shorts were this high, that gave us the fuel we needed for a big short squeeze, which caused this rise that we had. But since shorts are so low, it's going to be hard to have that short squeeze again, hence why Bitcoin is staying around these levels. So again, we're going to have to see if Bitcoin can hold this trend right here and continue to rise, or if we're going to fall through the 7,300 support and continue down to this 6,500 level. So we're going to have to see what happens. Again, if you're thinking about what to do, I recommend just holding right now. If you're thinking about selling, possibly selling half and then buying back on a further dip. But again, not investment advice, just my opinion. Now, the first article that everyone's talking about is the SEC decision to delay VanEck Bitcoin ETF, and that's days after the Bitwise proposed rule change. So, as you know, the CBOE wanted to launch a VanEck Bitcoin ETF, which the SEC delayed, and they delayed a second time, and they have one more time they can delay it, and I believe the delay is until August 19th, if I'm not mistaken. And it says their new deadline is August 19th. The SEC can and likely will delay one more time for a final deadline of October 18th. Now, the biggest reason why the SEC delayed the ETF again is because of market manipulation. So again, they're still seeking comments on 14 queries pertaining to the VanEck Bitcoin ETF. It says this includes the views of the commenters on whether the exchange has entered into a surveillance sharing agreement with a regulated market of significant size related to Bitcoin, the relationship between the Bitcoin futures markets and the Bitcoin spot market, with the focus being price formation. So basically what they're saying is, hey, can we have a surveillance sharing agreement of regulated markets where we can help more control that manipulation and that market corruption. So I can see where they're coming from. Again, that's the biggest thing right now, is the market manipulation, as you can see very evidently on this Bitcoin chart here. You can see, Bitcoin dipped from a high of 79.40 to 63.80, and this actually happened in the span of 15 minutes. Granted, it was because it was filling a gap from CME futures, but still, that is crazy manipulation. And again, if you have investors investing millions of dollars, you can't have this manipulation happening within spans of 15 minutes. That's something that definitely will need to be controlled, and hopefully can be controlled further in the future. But as of now, this is what's going on, and you can see the market hasn't reacted too negatively to it so far. I believe Bitcoin hasn't really fallen much since this news took place a couple hours ago. But again, anything could happen. It could still have another dip, so we're going to have to see what happens and how the market ends up taking this. Now, the second article is by 60 Minutes. So 60 Minutes actually had a video, pretty much like a documentary, over Bitcoin and the wild ride that it's had. Basically, it goes over Charlie Shrem's history. He was one of the first investors of Bitcoin. It goes over the pizza guy, where he was basically used 10,000 Bitcoin to buy one pizza. And this was basically the first recorded transaction of Bitcoin for real world currency. And then you have another person from MIT here. She's talking about it. Then you also have the miners of Genesis Mining. So it covers a lot of stuff. Basically, it's just going over the history and how much Bitcoin has risen and fallen, and how this could be really akin to whenever email first came out, and how people said, why you want to use email when you can use telephones, but now everyone uses email. So again, it's one of those things where it's hard to see a use case for it right now, but towards the future, we could very well see that use case widen. So something that's very interesting and something that is getting around to the masses. Now, third article here is by Cointelegraph. It's talking about Ripple CEO saying even the banking Goliaths will have to embrace crypto blockchain innovation. So this guy here is Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, very, very popular guy. As you know, Ripple is really involved with being a centralized cryptocurrency, being involved with banks as well. basically what he says is banks, they're going to get involved in cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology because they don't want to be left behind. Basically, he says, Amazon is going to start getting the forefront here of cryptocurrency and blockchain, and banks can't let that happen. So basically what he's saying is just they're going to end up jumping on the bandwagon too. And he also points out JP Morgan Chase would be rolling out its own blockchain powered initiative dubbed the JPM coin. So again, Brad Garlinghouse, he's probably one of the most centralized people within the banking and blockchain community, and he knows a lot from within the banks. So if he's thinking that banks are going to get involved, then again, I definitely trust that opinion. So it may be biased, but I definitely can see why banks would want to get involved. And last but not least, this is regarding that JPM coin. And actually it says JP Morgan warns Bitcoin and crypto market has surged above intrinsic value. So this is just some more FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt that JP Morgan is spreading. Basically, they're saying this divergence between actual and intrinsic values carries some echoes of the spike higher in late 2017. And at the time, this divergence was resolved mostly by a reduction in actual prices. So they're basically saying, hey, Bitcoin's went way past its intrinsic value. And again, this is why JP Morgan is always spreading FUD. They want to get Bitcoin lower so they can buy more. Because as you know, whenever there was Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, whenever he was spreading FUD that, hey, Bitcoin's a fraud and all this, there's actually people overseas that were buying up Bitcoin. And this is just all manipulation by all these banks, all these big companies that try to get Bitcoin at cheap prices. They weren't ready for the recent spike that we had. They weren't ready for this huge rise. And again, now they're trying to get Bitcoin cheap again. So don't listen to all this FUD. And it even says here that JPM coin may one day find its way into retail, competing against Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So again, competing against Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So of course they want Bitcoin to reduce. That would make their JPM coin perform that much better. More people would use it. So just don't fall for a lot of this FUD that people spread. And again, it's just something to keep in mind when you are reading these articles. So with that, if y'all enjoyed this video, please give it a like, comment if you have any questions. Please subscribe. Really appreciate it. Really helps me out. Until next time, thanks for watching.